Hello everyone, welcome back to another Helm to Tower video. It's time to talk more Wayfinder. I thought I would do a follow-up video, which thanks everybody for checking out that video and subscribing recently. It was a lot more people than I expected, so greatly appreciate that. But I thought I'd do a follow-up video because I saw some comments asking about, building out, how to build characters, like how some of these systems work, what do these do, like how do I kind of get ready for that. So I thought I'd kind of give you an overview of some of the systems in the game to maybe give you a better way to wrap your head around some of that stuff. And I also want to talk about Endgame, like what to expect about Endgame content. So I thought I'd just wrap these all basically into one video as like a kind of Endgame prep guide, more or less. Because, if you're wanting to learn how to build characters, the ultimate goal is to build characters ready for that content. Because, I would say, if you're progressing through the main campaign, you can largely just kind of equip the stuff that is you would consider highest level on your character at that given moment, and that'll bump your power rating up to kind of match that. And I think you can largely get through a lot of the content, especially if you're playing on let's say normal difficulty or some of the maybe potentially lower level difficulties. Even in heroic, I think it's not too challenging to get through just the baseline story campaign to figure out that stuff. But let me just give you an overview. I'm mainly going to be using the character I've been playing the most recently, which is Kyros here, to kind of explain some of this stuff so you can better understand kind of how certain systems kind of synergize with others to truly min-max stuff. Because that's really what it comes down to. Wayfinder, if you've been playing, you've probably already seen it's a pretty stats driven building character game. There are of course abilities your Wayfinder has, and there are some abilities you can get from things like the rush echoes from boss hunts. The weapons you pick each have their own unique ability that you can use and kind of mix with your character and stuff like that. So there are things like that, but you're not really swapping out different abilities or gaining entirely new abilities as you get deep in the game. It really is about finding that kind of play style within the abilities you have and synergizing that with your weapon, then finding the stats to kind of reach the maximum potential with that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I'm going to go over here. So let's say I have Kyros here. Like I said, this is a character I've been playing the most recently. I have him level 30. I don't have him fully maxed, and I'll get over some of the stuff that I'm still working towards in the end game stuff here. But for Kyros, a big thing with him is ability power, because one of his core abilities, this sort of rake ability, when you use it on enemies, it will heal you. I'll actually get into some combat real quick. All right, so now that I'm here, let's just kind of give you an idea to kind of show off. So with Kyros here, you can see I'll take some damage here and go, ouch, they're hitting me. I'm gonna use a rake, and when I hit enemies with my rakes, you can see those green health pips pop up. That is healing me as I use them. That is kind of an upgrade you can spec into with when you get skill points in there. So you can see the level 3 Savage Rake. Hitting a target with a Savage Rake heals Kyros for a small amount. Because it is an ability, that healing is going to scale off of ability power and also just the general damage of your abilities. So that's why I largely went into more focused on building up my ability power with Kyros, because I wanted to use the Savage Rakes to hit enemies hard, and you can combo them and get more and more with some other things in his kit. And I also wanted to use Siphon Radiant and increase that, because that gives you the sort of arcane fragments. Those are those little spheres that you see circling around Kyros. Those have their own effects as well, but having that stuff allows you to get even more rake setup, basically. Instead of having just I think normally he just has 2, but as you get the here, I'll use Siphon Radiant on these guys. I'll use that, and see I jumped up to 3 because I was able to siphon some of that. But depending on how many enemies are around you, you can get much more. I've gotten up to 5 and even 7 rakes by just doing that. So that's something to just keep in mind with that kind of basic setup. And those are gotten through his abilities again. I used those to get that. And then the other system, affinities, this is also a full system that is more, again, it's more garnered towards getting the most out of your stats. But after you hit certain affinity points, you can see I'm 15 in focus. They give you some of the perks that'll give you, and that's why I went to 15 here, because you can see this increases the maximum possible arcane fragments by 2, and it goes up all the way up to 5. So now I can have 5 arcane fragments with Kyros, which allows me to get many more rakes by doing that siphon ability on enemies. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. So, you know, you can see after using arcane fragments, since I have more of them, I went into this as well. I ultimately want to build towards the maximum arcane fragments, reduces cooldown of his abilities when I have maximum of those. So that's kind of ultimately what I'm building towards, because it all feeds into what I'm already doing, right? Where I'm using the siphon on enemies to get a bunch of rakes, then using the rakes to kind of take out enemies and heal myself a bunch, and then I'm just using the scythe because the scythe is good. And then so now that I know that part, that's kind of like the basic sense of what I'm going to be playing Kyros as like kind of the playstyle loop. I just want to basically boost my stats to increase that. So you can see my ability power is pretty high. I tried to get like okay-ish break power, and then because, you know, Kyros is like an Arcanist, I tried to have like, you know, him be not so squishy, so I went with a decent amount of health. So the ways I did that is by, you know, obviously he has echoes you can equip, so, you know, I went for a lot of ability focused ones and then kind of cranked that, and then I also used, you know, some other, you know, echoes just to, you know, fill out the stats that were kind of low depending on where they hit. I went for an accessory set. Accessory sets are pretty big for, like, I would say like it's more worthwhile to get like a full set later in the game. Like, you don't need to worry about getting sets throughout early parts of the game unless you really want to. But as you can see here, I have this collapsing shadow set. So now that I have all 3 of them in the set, I'm getting 10% bonus to my max health, resilience, and ability power. So I went for this just to, you know, give a little bit, you know, more health and resilience to Kyros, and also bump that ability power. But even beyond that, you can see here, like, if you truly want to mid-max, you can see like I'm doing it a little bit, but not like super hard, but you can get way nittier grittier with it, because you can see here, if you look under where it says like Bracer of Collapsing Shadow, you can see there's like resilience, max health, and ability power, and they have those symbols next to them. Those are the symbols for the affinities. So, you know, depending on what stat is tied to what affinity you're boosting, you know, you can also try and take an ability accessories and try and, you know, fit those perfectly into how you want to, you know, get your stats boosted. So in the case of this one, it works out pretty well, because you can see when I have, you know, when I'm getting focus perks and affinity in that and upgrading that, I'm getting more stat boosts into my max health, my ability power, and crit rating. So since it's boosting my health and ability power, that's great. And then of course the main one I'm doing pretty much does all of that as well, through, again, the set bonus I have, and of course the weapon I'm using as well. The weapon can also generate its own kind of stats that it'll boost. In this case, it's doing weapon power, ability power, and max health for Kyros with my Epitaph Scythe. Again, you can get higher level weapons, and those will do that. And then of course you can awaken weapons like you can characters, and that'll boost those stats even further. And then obviously the random rolls in the stats will give you different types of echoes. So, you know, you might just want to try and, you know, see how that fits in your thing. But that's kind of a general gist of it, is, you know, each character kind of has like a cool play style in their kit. You know, I find, you know, with Kyros, you can see it's with this kind of rake loop that I'm trying to do. And then there's also things like, you know, with Windgrave, you want to build into a lot of health and resilience, and even like magic defense and ability power, because, you know, that's going to be the thing that is really driving his abilities to do better healing for your allies and for himself, to keep him in the fray longer. Obviously higher health and resilience means you're going to be able to take a lot more damage and not be, you know, staggered, because your resilience is doing better. And, you know, I think magic defense also plays into some of his abilities, like his big shields and things like that, for like the gaining damage and stuff. But that's kind of the core of, you know, building a character in this game, is thinking about it from like, all right, I found a play style I like within this set of the core abilities they have. How can I emphasize that and empower that even more through, you know, upgrading these affinity perks, or, you know, finding a set of accessories that kind of increase the stats. They're going to benefit that play style even more. And also, you know, there is a talent tree as well and building that in certain ways can also do that. Like, see, I'm basically focused on this Havoc side for Kyros, because you can see each time I get an innervation orb, it when I use an ability with Kyros, it has a chance to create orbs, and getting orbs gives you more chances to get stacks of that rake back even faster. And then there's also each time you pick up an innervation orb, it decreases your ability cooldown. So I'm using rakes all the time already, so that means I'm using those two kind of to play in with that, where I'm using my abilities, making orbs. That's going to reduce the cooldowns and potentially give me rakes back immediately, because I can then keep on doing that loop, just constantly have rakes up. And and so I just kind of grabbed a lot of the stats with that, because there's a lot of ability power. You can see in here there's these ×2 diamonds. I always try and grab those, because when you get all three, you can see I got ability power, cooldown, ability cooldown, and crit rating. You can see I just got a bunch of stats from that. And then there's this core ability here, which has you're getting overwhelming arcana, and it basically just gives you a bunch of stacks that increase your ability power even higher. So that means I'm going to be doing more damage with my abilities overall with that particular prime node, I think is what they're called. But there you have it. That's kind of the idea of a building. I would say just start simple, because I know it can be a little overwhelming to some folks. At least some of the folks that were commenting on the last video, just learning that stuff for the first time. You don't have to know and master everything right away, because there's a lot to do and play through this game. So just kind of find through those abilities that you're initially getting, because you get abilities from when you first get a character early in the level all the way up to level 10. You'll get all of their abilities pretty much right away, because you can level to 10 pretty fast, and then basically just start using these abilities and see what works for you, what you like playstyle, and then just try and build and upgrade into those. And then from there, once you kind of know that, I think it makes building the rest of the stuff pretty easy, because you just want to look through, okay, echoes. I know, again, I'm going a pretty ability focused build with Kyros, so I want to always, when I have these attack slots, I'm looking to put some ability power in there as much as I can to crank that. Or maybe I feel pretty good about where my ability power is, I can kind of compensate for other stuff. And then there's health and other things like that to kind of, again, compensate for some of the lower stats, because I'm cranking the other stats so high. So I hope that kind of gave you a general idea. I know I mostly focused on Kyros, and you might be playing other characters, so you're like, all right, well, but just kind of try and take some of those core simple concepts of just like, all right, well, I'm using Windgrave. I really like his shield ability that can heal allies, or he has like the big swipe or the taunt, and then I'm using that a lot in this combat. And how can I kind of improve that, either through upgrading my ability power, resilience. This is very similar in that she has like a lot of her abilities are kind of those, like she has like a dash, and then her ultimate makes it so she can do that dash like basically like an infinite amount of times while that super is active. So she's also has a lot of she's worthwhile to build into ability power a lot as well, but can also be squishy. So I could say she could be pretty similar how you want to build out as well. So why would you want to do this stuff? Let's get into that. Again, there is endgame content in Wayfinder. A lot of it is, I would compare it to kind of Monster Hunter ish, but maybe obviously on a smaller scale, because in general this is like smaller team making this game compared to them. But you're gonna be unlocking two main things in the end game. This is gonna be where you're gonna be going over here to the Huntmaster. This is basically gonna be your vendor for mythic hunts. Mythic hunts you unlock basically at the end of the game. To be honest, I unlocked these in early access, which was at the end of the Frost March kind of story content. I don't know if it might still be at that point, but it also might be now past the Crucible, which is the new zone they added for 1.0. So I'm not 100% sure, because again, I got that in early access. But you'll play through the game and get to a point either past Frost March or doing the Crucible content, and you'll unlock these. And these are basically more challenging and harder versions of the bosses you fought through the campaign, as well as there are a couple there are currently four unique bosses that are only in the mythic hunts, and they all have their own unique rewards. The loot pools, as far as I'm aware, are separated for the normal versions of boss hunts and these mythic boss hunts. The mythic boss hunts have a lot of unique rewards and higher level gear rewards compared to the normal mythic ones, but you know, there are also some armor sets and other things tied to the normal sets, the normal boss hunts, that are not going to be in mythic hunts. So keep that in mind if you're like, hey, I'm trying to find this armor piece for Wingrave or this or whoever, you know, that's and it comes from this boss hunt. You probably want to do the normal one first before you jump into the mythic ones. However, there are unique armor sets for mythic hunts as well, so just keep that in mind if you're looking for certain sets and things like that. But yeah, largely these are going to be more challenging versions of the bosses you fought in the end game. And why would you want to refight them? Mainly because you can see they give more resources to upgrade your weapons, but a lot of these also give new things called mythic essences, glory, and black gloomstone. These are sort of like the 3 big end game currencies. Glory, you're going to be using at the Hunt Master. You can see he has trade glory. You can see he has level 38 legendary versions of every weapon in the game. So you can be getting much better versions of games. He also has some like cosmetic stuff, like here's some dyes, some pieces of armor for all the different characters, more dyes. And then there's also heroicness. Heroic characters are like kind of a system that was going to be more a part of the live service version of this game that was originally going to be a thing, but obviously they converted it now. And heroicness was kind of the next character after heroic Kyros, which was only exclusive. So right now we only have heroicness, but she's basically in a similar sense like heroic Kyros, where you know there's this pretty cool skin you can get for her. It's like it's an outfit more or less, but it boosts her a bunch of her stats and gives her, I think, additional echo slots as well. So you know, it's overall just going to be a slightly more powerful version of Echo. Actually, yeah, it says right there, a powerful version of Nis from a parallel world. In addition to the cosmetics, upgrading heroicness increases the following. It adds a rush echo slot and +1 echo budget added per Nis level, and increased ability power and weapon power. So yeah, just naturally boosts her stats and gives her an extra rush echo slot there. So that's kind of what that'll do. And of course you can see there's a bunch of dyes and other fun cosmetic things. And again, you can get these level 38 version of the weapons. So they're going to be, you know, just higher power rating, and it can also be random drops. So you can kind of farm out the one you want by doing the hunts. That'll give you glory, and then they're also, you know, I didn't do this part, but once you complete them, you get this its own unique bounty board like the other bounty boards in the game. But this is specifically for mythic hunts, and those will basically be like, hey, do this extra challenge on top of this, you'll earn additional glory. The other things are mythic essences. Those are going to be used to get awakening stars 4 and 5 for all the characters. Weapons might be in that too. I'm not 100% sure. I'm still working towards awakening a lot of weapons, but I haven't got there yet. And the last thing, black gloomstone is going to be for affinities. This allows you to get your last perk in one of the ability trees you're working towards. As you can see, I'm level 20 here in discipline with Kyros, and now to go from 21 and of 25 and all the way up to 25, I now need black gloomstone to start leveling that stuff. So that's kind of what I'm going to be working towards now in this, and it's basically just, you know, it is kind of just like a mid-maxing of your character more or less, and you know, getting some cool extra cosmetic-y stuff, because a lot of the bosses have their own extra drops. Like you can get some cool exclusive mounts and other like kind of cosmetic vanity stuff through mythic hunts as well. So that stuff is also there for you if you want to be chasing that stuff. And if you're like kind of like a completionist or collector in these kind of games like I am, that stuff is all going to be in mythic hunts as well. So it's worth doing if you like that kind of stuff. And for people, I know there's a lot of people I've seen kind of over this week getting into Wayfinder for the first time and seeing like, hey, this is definitely like a little bit more easy. You know, casual might be too harsh of a word for it, but you know, it's definitely the easier side of these kind of looter action RPG games, which I don't personally mind, but I know some people definitely want that challenge, and I would say a lot of it can be found in these mythic hunts, for sure. If you want to go on the higher difficulty levels and take on these mythic hunts, I think that's where you're going to get probably the most challenge out of this game, for sure. But that's largely going to do it for this. There are other things you can do in Endgame, like world bosses. I think I might make that a separate video just because there are specific unlocks to getting the world bosses unlocked. Like you need to do certain activities out in the open worlds to get materials to then go fight those bosses. And you know that's going to be almost its own video length to kind of go over that stuff. So I think I might just make that a separate video, so this video does not end up being like, you know, 40 minutes long, trying to get all this information to you. But there you go. I hope this helped kind of give you a better understanding of how some of the building and systems work in Wayfinder, and also, you know, get you ready for Endgame and why you want to kind of build out your characters. I think it's pretty fun in this game. Like I know it's not, you know, in depth as something like Diablo or Path of Exile, which I know maybe they disappoint some. And who knows, maybe if they're able to continue developing and making content for this game, which we'll hopefully hear about soon, you know, then, you know, they might be able to expand on some of these ideas and sort of systems that'll let you build out your characters even further. I definitely would love to see that stuff in the game as well, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. But for now, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.